Hello everyone and welcome to another LFC Transfer Room stream. And after a weekend which is pretty much confirmed, missing the top four, it's Europa League. That seems the place for Liverpool next season. And our amazing trips across Europe. At least we can get some good away games if people go across. Other than that, a failure as a whole. Let's start with you boys. How are you doing personally? Forget the football for a second. How are you doing personally? Charles, how are you?
Yeah, really good for a Monday. Well, I'm only saying that because I've got a really strong beer just to drown my sorrows over the weekend. So yeah, why not?
You've been supping that since Saturday, guys.
Absolutely.
Kev, how about you, mate?
Sun is shining, weather is sweet.
And we didn't get a defeat.
Exactly. There you go. Okay.
How about you, Drew? How are you doing, mate?
Doing good. Still daytime over here, so it's coffee for me until work day's over.
What's the weather like over there? Because over here we've got American sun over here today.
I mean, LA, you're pretty much in 70 degrees all year, minus the times when it's like 100 degrees. So in that 70 range right now, which is just where I like it.
Yeah, it's just the norm over there. I mean, Kev saying that about the weather, you won't get that over there because it's such a norm that you get such nice weather. It's absolutely pointless mentioning it. Over here we get some completely different, don't we?
Yeah,
so let's get on with tonight's street then, boys. It is Europa League, and who could have predicted that? Yeah, it's pretty much confirmed. I know it's not fully confirmed. Obviously, there's goal difference, and if we win the last game, and Man United or Newcastle do lose, which is very unlikely to happen, we can still make Champions League, but it's pretty much set in concrete, isn't it, Charlie? And how do you feel making the Europa League? On initial thoughts now.
Yeah. So if you ask me at the start of the season, that will be fifth place, really off the top of the league, fighting out with Brighton, United, and Newcastle. I just wouldn't believe it. How does it feel to be in Europa League? Yeah, bit gutting. I wish that we had changed formation, changed the way that we performed earlier. Some of the things that we've done in the last 10 games have been brilliant. I wish it was, you look at January time, if we could have made that change, how would that have affected that season? Salvaging what we could have done, securing that Champions League spot. But yeah, I mean, on the whole, I'm really disappointed. I know injuries have caused havoc throughout the side, a bit of mismanagement in terms of transfers, the turmoil in terms of investment, the lack of investment, who's interested and whatnot, and then the key personnel in the background in kind of the back room. So director of football, everyone, have we got a doctor? Who knows? Where is he? What does he look like? So yeah, this season seems like a bit of a culmination of things that have been brewing under the surface, and it's just come to fruition. I don't know what anyone else thinks, but just really disappointed about the whole season, and I'm glad it's over, coming to an end.
Do you agree with that, Drew? Was the Europa League even a thought in the back of your mind at any point this season? Not even halfway through the season, was it? Do you think Champions League was nailed on, or is that just being too much optimistic?
No, I thought we'd get Champions League despite like the lack of investment in the midfield. I think the fact that we're so close now, having such a poor season, kind of shows. I mean, I thought Tottenham would be much higher up with Conte. That imploded, but I never really thought that the other teams had what it took to get Champions League above us. Arsenal was the big surprise for me, but you're looking at it now, Newcastle is way higher projected than where they started at the start of the league. The Champions League's a great achievement for them if they get it. But yeah, I was not thinking that we'd slip up this much, and it kind of, Charlie summed it up. It's kind of all these mistakes have been brewing. I know everyone on this channel is talking about the lack of investment in midfield, and the only optimism for me is that the mistakes are so inexcusable that they need to be rectified this summer. If it comes to the point where we absolutely change the club, revitalize our transfers and get the right personnel in, and have an amazing next season, then that's mistakes you could potentially forgive, but the fact that they were just so blatant is heartbreaking. It's like it's not like it was a mystery why we suffered this whole season. So like Charlie said too, I wish we'd done something in January to mix it up. Like the move with Trent towards the midfield has been amazing in the last 10 games. It's I'm surprised it took us this long to get there, but we'll see what we do this summer. But only an excellent season next season gives me optimism and forgives the mistakes for this year.
Kev, 2 questions. The standards for next
Cheers,
season.
Damon.
The standard for the second one, you'll get the second one. It's not much of it's more of a rhetorical question. The second one.
Yeah.
The first question: the standards next season. How high should they be? Because I mean, like Drew just said, we need to rectify this now. The mistakes were made; they should not be made again. And do you have faith in them not making them same mistakes next season? But also the second question, have you learned the Europa League theme yet?
Well, to your first question, is this a 2-year cycle that we go through? Because as soon as we won the league, we had a poor off season in which we managed to get our way back into the Champions League. And this just proves the fine margins have got that little bit finer in us trying to rectify the errors that we've seen all season. It's not hard to see where the issues lie this season. And if someone like me can see it and all of us can see it who are uneducated and not coached, then surely, people who do have the coaching licenses and are a part of the game can see them as well. Our standards should be a minimum of Champions League football. That's the minimum. That's the minimum requirement we should have going into any season. And then if we get to February, by January or February, we'll then know if we're a part of an actual title race. That's when we should be. That's how it should be looked. We haven't done that this season. We've been very inconsistent. We've tried to change formation. I agree. In the last 10 weeks, we've tried something that Klopp refused to look at. I joined that party with Klopp and said I wouldn't have Trent in midfield, but it's shown that it's worked. We can talk about should we have done that area. Salah scores a goal against Arsenal. We don't go to Bournemouth. We go to Bournemouth. There's many times and opportunities this season we've had to even with just to getting 3 points and turning a point into 3 that have been through the whole season that we can all pick out and chew on and think, well, had we had won that, had we had done that, had we had done this, but let's have it right. We haven't been good enough. We haven't been good enough. We haven't been consistent enough. So we don't deserve to be in the Champions League at all. But based on where we are not up to Champions League at the minute at all. And the league doesn't like. We're 5th for a reason. Simple as. As to the second question, no. To the Europa.
You've got a few months yet, mate. But if you know any Man United fans, they'll point you in the right direction for that sort of thing. Drew, Kev just said there, look, it's been an absolute terrible season and we don't deserve Champions League, do we? We do not deserve Champions League. We've been shocking all season. How would you rate the season out of 10?
Say a 4. I think.
Is that a kind 4?
It's a kind 4 for sure. I think we've learned. Again, it all comes to what we do in this off season and how we approach next season and what we achieve from next season. But I think that if we scrapped 4th, it might have papered over some cracks. They might have, owners might have been like, oh, we've got Bajcetic coming in. Curtis Jones is looking great. Maybe we only need one midfielder.
Saves us millions, doesn't it, Drew? Saves us millions.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the cracks were not papered over this season. They were obvious for all. The doctor department for me, the injuries that we had all season was like just insane. Like that should not be happening. And the 4 comes from just the fact that Klopp has had to, has been forced to try different things. Like we've seen, Trent in the midfield's obvious, and I don't want to, beat the drum too much on that, but I think that was a good opportunity for us moving forward into the next seasons. I think that we see what Nunez has to offer. Diaz coming back, he hasn't looked great, but he'll have a preseason. Jota has shown that he really can score goals, which what we need. I think the emergence of Bajcetic wouldn't have happened if we weren't in such dire straits where we needed to throw him in and see how he does. So Curtis Jones, again, at the last parts of the season has really shown that maybe he has a job for Liverpool to do, whether that's off the bench or a rotational player. But I think those are kind of the positives that we can look forward, and that's why I'm giving it a 4, because there's something we can take away, but only if Klopp and the owners make the right decisions in the offseason.
How does Klopp then look into the transfer window, Charlie? Going into the transfer window, obviously Trent's playing a new hybrid position. He's still a right back. Let's not get it straight. He's not a midfielder. He's still a right back. He's coming into midfield and attacks. But should Liverpool save millions? I mean, everyone knows my opinion on this sort of thing. We've been saving millions for a long time, and it's not worked out. Is there an argument for saving millions, Charlie? You're on mute, mate.
Unmute, Charlie.
Hello, sorry about that. Yeah, so there's always going to be an argument for saving millions because of the talent that Trent allows the team to kind of progress and whatnot. But if we have a look at the issues that we face on the weekend, there's still an argument that right back is the position for him, and we need kind of still persevere and not step away from things that we've been doing for 4 or 5 years. But it's got to be the right player that needs to be coming in. We cannot be relying on the younger players in the squad. I'm talking about Curtis Jones and Bajcetic kind of filling the gaps. My preference has always been we need to get quantity and quality in. It's not a case of just I know we've missed out on Jude, but that shouldn't kind of take away anything that we need from midfield. And I heard today about a defender coming in as well. So we need to look at the full midfield and defence. And I've said this before as well. And there's possibly an argument for goalkeeper as well. Backup goalkeeper if Keller is going to be going. I know Klopp said on the weekend or just before the weekend, it's going to take a outstanding bid to kind of prize him away from Liverpool. Whether that's kind of paper talk to increase the price for the player, because there are clubs that do need a good quality keeper anyway. So yeah, it's going to be. I hope it's not going to be a frustrating summer. I hope the deals that they are trying to complete are done early, because we need all the players ready for July, because it's going to be a massive season for us. So pre-season is going to be vital, because some of the players, looking on a weekend, they need it. They need that pre-season Diaz and Nunez to come in, hit the ground running, and then continue.
Charlie just mentioned about getting not just midfielder but defender as well. He also mentioned a goalkeeper. And Telegraph's Chris Bascombe came out, I think, earlier today and said that it is looking likely to be at least 4 players, which 3 centre midfielders and a defender. Kevin, is that enough?
I'll say it won't be good for our fan base. No one will be good enough, no matter who we bring in. This is, as I've said last time, this is going to have to be pinpoint. With the early thing to say about Bellingham and not to get Bellingham, it will always be referred to, well, we should have put the extra million towards that. No one's going to be happy with who comes in. I'd say 3 in midfield is a start, and a defender as well is a start at the start of the season. If they are the priorities and we get them in early doors, then it allows us a wiggle room to get more in if required. But we get our main priorities in, whatever that is. But I know with our fan base that no one will be good enough, because it's not that money that we want for Bellingham, and it'll always be compared, and the comparison will be made to that had we got Bellingham instead with this time next season, we'll be having arguments of, well, had we got Bellingham, would there be any difference? I'm hoping we're not, but I think we've got to stick with what Klopp wants. Klopp gets what he wants, his first priorities and his main targets, then I'll be happy with who comes in, but I know a lot won't be.
Is a justification though, Kev, that people won't be happy with the amount? If it is 3 centre midfielders and a defender, is a justification for not being happy because in recent windows we've been neglected for so long that
exactly
they've put themselves in a situation where we need to get a bit more.
Well, it goes back to 2 years ago. We didn't replace Wijnaldum, and since then we've continued with this. Now, I'm not a licensed coach or anything like that, but even I can tell that a squad ages. And if you're playing gegenpressing, you're not going to be able to gegenpress with old players, which is what we've done. We've tried to cut corners, which is what FSG have done. They'll cut corners to save money because they don't want to spend it. We are the only club to find US owners that do not want to spend money. It's mad. It's crazy. I just don't understand what are we saving this money for? We heard at the start of around September time, October time that we're looking for new investments. So where do we currently stand with that? Do you know what I mean? We've heard it's like old rope. We just keep hearing the same tune every other couple of seasons. Next summer's going to be the big one. Oh, well, it would have been if you got Champions League football. So, do you know what I mean? It all comes with a tiny bit of, the terms and conditions that we don't actually can see. It's like watching Willy Wonka with the terms and conditions you read at the very end to Charlie, and you can't actually read them. But if you get a microglass big enough, a magnifying glass big enough, you'll be able to read it. But it's because we haven't made what we were meant to set out to do at the start of the season. And that gives them the option to turn around and say, no, you're not getting that money. And it's the same old FSG that we have every season. And it's getting a bit boring now. But I think there'll be more scrutiny on this window than there ever has been because of the false dawns that we've had and the fact that we've currently turned around and walked away from Bellingham.
I think the Bellingham one has really knocked it over the edge, hasn't it, Kev? Really, I think it's
absolutely
it's a lot of people up.
Do you know what, right? Up until Bellingham, up until then, you wouldn't hear many people calling it out. But now you'll start hearing more. And it'll get worse, especially if we start going down the table. And that's the worry. And that's why this window has more scrutiny on it than ever. And that's why it's got to be more on point than there ever has been. And that's where we need to get this right. If we're not in for Bellingham, that's good, fair enough. But what's the alternative? And that alternative has to be better than what Bellingham was going to do or achieve whatever it does. One man doesn't solve the problems we've got, but it goes a long way to bringing in quality in.
Oh, sorry, guys.
And then you build around that. But that's where you'll start seeing Ed's role if it doesn't work out for me.
Thank you, Michael, for the super chat there. Rubbish Jones is no positive. He is not good enough to beat City, much less any good team weekly. Cheap Klopp is the problem, not FSG. Regarding that, Michael, about Klopp being the problem, Klopp can only do so much with what he's got. He's not in charge. He said many times he's not in charge of money. He is an employee rather than an employer. And if he's got Jones to work with, if he looks back at his bench and he's looking back and Ox is smiling at him and Milner's smiling at him and Jones is smiling at him, what else is he supposed to do? I mean, Jones, I don't think he's good enough for the first team, and especially in the next 10, unless he improves massively and he continues to play like that. But I highly doubt that's going to happen. But he's a very, very important squad player. I've always described him as the Nicky Butt of this era because, how important Nicky Butt was to Man United during 99. It wasn't amazing, but it was important. And regarding Liverpool and their transfers, I came to the conclusion today we are friend zone FC because the amount of articles I write where we're interested or talking to or keeping an eye on or keen on, and it's always talks. But nothing over goes over the line. So that to me is friend zone FC. The amount of friend zones we get is ridiculous. Bellingham friend zoned us. Countless times too many friend zoned us. It's not good enough. And the only time we can get over the line is when we pay the dough. And that comes down to FSG, Michael. That comes down to FSG. It's no good Klopp talking to someone for months and months, getting them on side of Liverpool, the player wanting to go to Liverpool. Everything's like Bellingham was a perfect example of it. This lad, it seemed to be begging for Liverpool. It looked all in line, and we're just not paying the money for it. So you can't blame Klopp for that. Klopp clearly wants that player, and he's not being given the cash to do so.
I don't know the exact figures, but I'm pretty sure Liverpool pay the highest or one of the highest fees in agent fees. So I don't know if that's something where we've made a decision that we're not going to be paying the agents as much as what we did previously. Hence why maybe Mendes is trying to get Ugot over, because he knows that he'll get a nice payday, and the Nunes deal because he might get a nice payday. That could be a reason. Suddenly the agents aren't getting the love that they want from previous years, and that's suddenly just happened. I mean, one quick thing, I did just have a quick look at the average ages for Premier League squads in the Premiership, and we're third from the top. At 27 years of age for a big squad like that. If we're still dependent on just taking the point that Kev said earlier about having too many older players, what the problem was when 2 years ago the band of experienced players was far too many, and the band of inexperienced players, the players around 21 was far too many. That gap, you're looking at the next band of players to be able to come in around 24, 25. There were hardly any there, but and if we did have some, they're just injury prone, not liked, not trusted. It's bad planning from the club over years.
Drew, I'm going to go to you next because Helio's asking you a question there because you're an investor. You can share your thoughts regarding what Helio said. I'm going to put this back up a second about the main starting cost 100 million, around 110 million, and training price. The training complex also cost about 50 million, and the Anfield Road extension also. But really, we borrowed money to pay for those, so it's not entirely come out of the club's investment. It's not entirely come out of the club's money. So, where's the club's money that we can reinvest into the squad?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Charlie said about poor planning. We mentioned it before. I'm blanking on who said it, but I think it was Kev, but we haven't replaced Gini Wijnaldum, like that kind of planning. Like we had issues that weren't addressed, and we all saw the aging squad. We all saw the need for midfield, especially the gegenpressing, like Kev said. I take Hyler's point on because I do believe they put money into the club. I don't think it's all been their money. I don't think it's been enough. But I do think when we look at it, when we beat City, I think that comes down to Klopp, what he got out of the team, the players that we have giving it their all. We're talking about billionaire owners, like foreign investment. And I think that can be good, but there's something nice about Liverpool doing it the way they have done it. I think it just comes down to what Charlie said about poor planning. And then the promises, like Bellingham's a really, really frustrating one. Tchouaméni didn't work out, and there were no backup options. It's the Bellingham one really feels like, we had this like sugar daddy FSG who said they'd get us this Ferrari, has 2 other girlfriends or whatever with, other clubs that they're invested in. And then he's like, sorry, I can get you the Ferrari. Here's, this season, 3 cheap Pintos or something like that. But we'll see what we get. But it just seems like there's been these underlying promises that we're going to get these big name players, and then we don't get them. And frustratingly, in the past few seasons, we haven't gotten anyone in. And then the people that we have at the club are injury prone, and we know this. And it's not a surprise when we get a season like this where everyone's injured, our midfield's old, aging, and we're relying on youth to carry us through. So I think it just comes back to what Charlie said about planning. That's the most frustrating part. But I do believe that FSG have invested. I just think they haven't invested enough, and they should have been wiser with the investments in the past 2 years for sure.
Regarding the Bellingham thing, all you get from people that protect FSG online is, well, have you heard anything from the club directly that we're in for Bellingham? It's all just reports. But when multiple people report it, especially people like Ball Joyce and people close to the club, James Pierce, it don't come from nowhere. They don't just make this up, especially when they all get it at once. And when all these reports add up every single season about Bellingham, it was clear that we was in for this guy. And we knew the price of him. And when Jules said there, we will promise this guy, it pretty much looked like we was promised this guy. And the reason why we was promised this guy, I think it was to shut the fans up. That's my personal opinion. I don't know you guys think that, but it works. It really works. There's a lot of PR that comes from clubs. I've seen Man United do it. I've seen Arsenal do it over the years where they couldn't afford, and the PR comes, and it always seems to come on, say, like we win, we get a negative PR come out. If we lose, and the positive PR spins out like days after, not even that, maybe the next hour or so. It's all there for people to see. And Drew, I'm going to come back to you though about that, because I also get about the people say that the accounts are online. Go have a look at the accounts, this and that, and they say we don't have enough money to reinvest. But we're the ones paying the high wages. We're the ones that are paying Miller that wage. We're the ones that are looking again to sign Adrian on whatever he is a week. And we're the ones that are investing in other things that, and the squad's there. It's dying on it. It's really dying. I'm gonna swear there, but I'm not gonna do that tonight. I've done enough that over the last few days. It is dying. That squad's dying at the moment, and it's sorely needed. It really needs a proper rebuild and proper refreshing, and it's needed that for years now. Is there any excuse to not reinvest in that squad at all?
No, I think that's what it comes down to, is that the writing on the wall was obvious. And I think it comes down to fine margins on how the money was spent. Like, I think we've come down to buying players at the last second because other clubs were interested in them. I think that worked a couple times, Nunez with United, Gakpo with the United, and I'm blanking, Diaz with Tottenham. And I think those situations worked out to an extent. But buying Thiago was, I think I saw Michael Ramsey saying that we got a sick Thiago for replacing Gini, but I think that was like a season in between. I think we had a full year without getting Thiago, if I'm not mistaken. But it's like, that's not enough, especially when you know that Naby Keita gets injured. You know that Alex Chamberlain gets injured. You know that Curtis Jones has been injured. You know that Henderson picks up the odd injury. Milner's age, like all of these factors come into play where it comes down to fine margins where we're not, like, there are obvious areas in the squad. In the age, for me, like the fact that we're the third and oldest squad, that's not a future. That you can't rely on that. I've said it at the beginning of the season. It felt like we were a car that had 300,000 miles on it, and we're just hoping it gets us through one more season in top form. It doesn't break down, but we've seen it break down in the past couple of years, especially in the midfield. So I think, again, I'll say that the club is invested, but when it comes down to the fine margins that make a difference between challenging for top four, challenging for the league, and having an implosion, you can't rely on getting those decisions right every single time. That's why we're crying out for not just one midfielder or two, we're crying out for three at the least. We need more investment or smarter investment, not just just because the right option wasn't there at the time, we're going to wait 2 years to try to bring someone in. We need to address those situations now because they're not changing.
Charlie, do you agree with what Drew said there about now we're needing a bit more than one or two signings? It is fine margins, isn't it? It really is fine margins. And people say, well, we're 2 games off of winning a Champions League, winning a quad, and we were a point off Man City. And, I keep seeing the same things of it, but these fine margins can only be down to ourselves. Obviously, like there's decisions by the referees and things like that. Obviously, the Everton one out against Man City, that's one that could cost us in the winning league. But we can only have ourselves blue, can't we, Charlie? I mean, there's fine 100%. Margins. That extra player every single window would have won. I think I said, obviously, buying players don't guarantee you success, but I think if we got an extra midfielder or maybe 2 last season, I think we'd have won the quad.
Yeah, I 100% agree on everything you just said there. So, again, this is probably paper talk, but I read up about Thuram, Khephren Thuram. There was a report that came out suggesting that the club blocked a transfer for Thuram in January. Now, how much would have he made to us in 6 months, I don't know. But just having that extra body may have given us another option to be able to do something to get us into that top 4 again.
Yeah.
You know, and at that point, the way I look at this season, we've had 2 of the greatest performances ever in the history of the Premier League happen this season. The 9-0 against Bournemouth and the 7-0 against United. However, if you look at the consistency, it's just that, you know, it's the consistency with referees, the consistency with our transfers, with Klopp. You know, he needs to probably just look at himself as well as to how he's performed and making the right decisions. At that point, you know, it's just frustrating, and I'm sure all the players are frustrated with what's actually happened throughout the season. But yeah, we just needed to plan so much better. And there's going to be an inquest, I'm sure, internally as to how to improve things. And there's going to be a new director of football supposedly coming in, signing this week. So whether that actually makes a difference, if that's a short-term deal, long-term deal, who knows? We don't know. Again, it's more kind of mixed reports as to what we're hearing from Europe. It's a longer-term deal from here, from our local journalists. It's a short-term deal. Again, we don't know, because that's kind of, again, it's kind of alluding to the lack of planning from the club to be able to get a director of football to come in who's going to stamp their mark on the club and what the way that we should shape the way that we play for the next 3-4 years. We're looking at the next 3-4 months, unfortunately, and that's just not good enough. The fine margins are, you look at Arsenal, you look at Newcastle, this season they've overtaken us because they've found that sweet spot.
Address the problems, yeah.
Yeah, they found that sweet spot and fixed the issues that they had. And there was a lot of luck, because you look at Newcastle, their injury record is a lot better than what ours are. Arsenal had the same. It only really came down to Saliba and you know, a couple more players getting injured that their season fell apart at the end. So injuries are a massive part, but we need to be looking at how are players treating, you know, looking after themselves.
Elliot, you are a regular viewer, and I appreciate regular viewers. I absolutely love regular viewers, and I love that you come on every time. But not many scouts on here, says here. But I don't know if that has any relevance to anything. I'm sure Kev will agree with that. Our only scouts are here. We've got plenty of scouts on our team, by the way. So you don't have to be a scout to be talking about Liverpool. You know, we've all been Liverpool fans for all our lives. But also regarding this question, would you rather buy a player for 50 million for every player you buy, or other clubs that have developed, or would you rather develop them yourselves? To be a club fighting at the top, you need to do both. You don't have to just go out there and get players that you develop, but you don't also have to get ready-made players. When you're at the top, you need to get both. You get a good mixture of both, because when we're back in 5th, 6th, 7th, I know we're back in 5th now, but let's forget that. When we're back in 5th, 6th, 7th, we needed to develop up. So we could take the chances to get developing players and have time to develop them over the years. We don't have that time no more. We're at the top. To stay at the top, you need to get a mixture. You can't just get developing players and not play, because if they're not ready to be at that level, then you're not going to be fighting for the title. It's as simple as that. I always point back to the Alex Ferguson situation where they lost the title to Chelsea and he went out and bought Van Persie. You know, Alex Ferguson was very, very good at buying players to develop. Very good at it. But he also knew when it was time to get someone that was ready-made. And Van Persie practically won him the title. He practically won him the title that season. And you've got to have a mixture to really stay at the top. If you want to stay at the top. But we haven't been doing that. Obviously, Thiago's probably the only ready-made player we've ever bought in the year club. I think Thiago's actually the only one ready-made player that was maybe Van Dijk at a push, but everyone else was probably developing. But now we're getting to the point where we need to stay at the top, and to get that, you need a good mixture. Kev, Charlie mentioned Thuram, and we're going to go on to that. It was our friend, our close friend at the channel is Jacques Talbot. He came out with the Khephren Thuram report, and his reported fee is about 60 million €, sorry. But Nice are open to listen to offers, and obviously they seem to be a bit more open to decreasing the value of him. And do you think he's one for you? A lot of people are absolutely hyping this guy, and rightly so, because I think he's an unbelievable player.
He is, but he's unproven in the Premier League. We need players to come in straight away. We can't afford to have players coming in, and this is why he's got to be on point. We can't afford to have players to mull around for 2 to 3 months to find a feet. We need people to come in straight away and be on the get-go. We need people who can consistently perform. That's why I think we're predominantly linked with more Premier League players than we are from outside, and the abroad players are very much down on the list compared to in comparison to the Premier League ones. And we've already seen that no one's going to be helping us out, and no one's going to be doing us favours. We're not getting them on the cheap, which is what FSG was hoping for. This has got to a point now where we've got to start spending a bit of money. And even the players that we think are around about 20, 30 million have now gone up 20 or 30 million as well. So we are going to be paying 50 million for players. That's how it's going to be. We can't afford. We would love to be able to buy abroad and bring them in and do what Diaz did. That's very rare. Does that happen? We can't afford this season, especially with the money that we're looking to spend. I don't think, in my personal opinion, that we are going to look outside our waters for anyone until those targets come untenable and we can't get them in. Then we'll start looking abroad. At the minute, we're getting linked with every midfielder under the sun from all over the world, and we're attracting a lot of interest in everyone with no actual kind of concrete basis for it. People are assuming the players that we want and are putting players' names to that. Some, to a fair degree, are theoretically the players that we want, but it's the transfer window hasn't even started, and I think we've already been linked with like 40 or 50 of them already. Do you know what I mean? So, we can't sign everyone, and this is where the problem's going to be. There's going to be people, despite this is why I think our fan base is fractured, because we don't all want the same player. We all understand we want a certain degree of a DM. We were physically outplayed on Saturday for me, and in the middle of that park, and I think someone mentioned earlier, Ramsey would be a hell of a player to buy from Villa, but Villa are not going to give him us for free or for a cheap price because Perslow used to be our CEO. He'll be expecting top wage for him. He's 21, prospect. You're Anna England's price tag as well. You're looking at about 50, 60, 70 million for him. He's worth it. I'd go out and pay it tomorrow. But again, we're talking about you know what I mean? But I'd even look down the side of my couch and see if I can find any money for it. But that's what we're missing. We saw it on Saturday, the physicality. We were not up for it on Saturday, and rightly so. That's where we should predominantly be looking as a target first, and bringing someone like a defensive midfielder in, and then looking at bringing someone else in. We've gone away. You always buy from success. If you've won the league, that's when you start buying players and bringing players in. We went away from the model that we had because we sat back and thought, look what we've done. We're great. Michael Edwards leaves. We're then left with Julian Ward, who by all accounts can do a good job, but he's not one who I think is confident enough to challenge Klopp in decisions on who to bring in, like Michael Edwards did. Michael Edwards was the one who brought Mo Salah in. That wasn't Klopp. Klopp didn't want him. I don't think he's strong enough in that boardroom to turn around and say, no, we're not getting him, we're getting him because he fits our structure. We haven't took risks. We could have got Mateus Nunes a year earlier. We didn't get him. We decided not to. We could have got Enzo Fernandez as well. Again, a year earlier. We haven't took those risks that have done us so well. Those players, the likes of a Wijnaldum, the likes of an Andy Robertson, and bringing them in. We haven't done that. All we've done is we brought players in that don't meet the mould for a gegenpressing team. We brought creative players and number 10s in which we don't play with the number 10 role. It's ridiculous how what we brought in. But that's I'm ranting now. But for me, Thuram is one of a number of names I'd love to have. But I think he's down the list because I think we're looking at Premier League players first.
See, it's hard, isn't it, Kev? Because we do want that sort of player that's proven in the Premier League, especially when I hit him ground running. But like you said, we don't take any more risks that
we don't.
treated us in the past. So going out there and getting Thuram's a risk, but look what it's done for us.
I know, but it's a catch-22 though, isn't it, Damon? Because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So it's but that's the way it is. This is the situation we're in now. This is where we've got ourselves. This is what happens when you don't spend and invest well into your team, and you let certain assets run their contracts down and they leave for nothing. And so we're not even we haven't got players to sell. Naby Keita, we could have sold for 20-30 million if he was still in contract, but he's not. So we're letting a £50 million player go for nothing. Look at the players that we're letting go. Ox again for nothing. Came in with the £35 million. All these were meant to be integral assets to the club. Yet we're letting them go for nothing. I think that doesn't help the matter either. We're now in a very instead of being in a strong place, we're in a very we're in a weak place. We're looking for people on the cheap, and we want players of a certain quality. You're not going to get that. We're trying to bargain. We're going in the bargain basements in Harrods. You're not going to get much bargains in there, are you? Do you know what I mean? And that dustbin, you're going to have to pay quality. And unfortunately, the players that we are attached to are going to be pricey. And this is where I say that anyone who comes in and the price we play, there will always be people that will say, but why didn't we put some of that to Bellingham? That will always be in the back of everyone's mind. That why did we spend 200 odd million on players, and that investment could have been on one player and it would have been quality. That's the problem we've got though. And that's the predicament we're in at the minute. And it's a sad place to be at the minute, because 2 years ago we were flying high. We're now in a position now where we're struggling to get into the top four, and we'll probably be struggling again next season if we don't get this to point. And that's what I mean. This is what I'm talking about. This is why this is the most serious transfer window we've ever had. Because we're going to have to see, and everything's going to be scrutinised. Everything's going to be down to the T. This is why those players have to come in and start straight away. We can't be giving people time to get into playing, or giving time to sit on the bench like we did with Fabinho to watch the first 2 months of the game of the season to get up to speed. They need to come in and be ready. And that's why I think a lot of foreign players are going to be further down the list than what they would naturally be had we invested Jordan in increments in the last 2 years for me.
Everyone that's watching, we've got 43 people watching them. That's incredible. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe, and we will be here all summer. Whether we do 2 transfers, 5 transfers, or absolutely nothing, it's nothing's more likely than 5 with FSG. So whether we do whatever transfer business we go for, we will be here as much as we can, and we'll be writing the articles. We'll be there for you for the news. One transfer that is very likely right now, Drew, is Alexis McAllister. Romano has shut down the recent reports about Man City coming in for him, and a full agreement is close, and just to find the details left now for McAllister. Are you happy with that signing?
Yes, but the price tag for me is a little high, but that's obvious given our need and our situation. Another Premier League club. I think he offers a lot. I think he can do a job. For me, it comes down to look at our midfield now, and does he come in and give us better options than we have? The answer is yes. So I'm happy. The price is a little bit higher than what I'd like, but if he's one of 3, then that's acceptable. And I think it comes down to that. If we only get two midfielders at the 60 million range, then, if it's not a marquee signing for the other midfielder, I'd be disappointed with that. But yeah, let's see what he can do. We've seen him in the Premier League, World Cup winner. Don't put too much emphasis on that given the current stage of international football, but he's played in the Prem, as Kevin said. We need Premier League players. They seem to hit the ground running for us, and we need a player that's not a number 10 or another attacker, which we don't need. So midfielder from the Premier League. Let's go.
Charlie, with McAllister, is a number 8. Number 8, a bit more attacking than number 8. What should be our next priority then for you?
Defensive midfielder. I know Fabinho's kind of showing glimpses of coming back, but I think he either needs replacing, competition, or that ability to be swapped out every now and again with a real quality destroyer. Now, when I think about that type of player, Caicedo is that type of player that I would absolutely spend the money on. Someone that's actually going to be searching for that ball. That Mascherano type player, Mascherano didn't really sit in front of the back four. He just went, hunting like a dog, didn't he? And just hunt players down, get the ball further up the pitch. That would then allow the attackers to win the ball a little bit further up. It's just that it's that type of player. Kante is another player that has that mold of the player that I would love to be able to see at Liverpool, because I think he would thrive, especially with the gegenpress that we operate. So because Caicedo is that type of player that I would kind of foresee we need 100%. Whether we can get someone like that, it's a different question.
Is anyone in mind for you regarding CDM? Because if we get McAllister, Caicedo's not happening. I can't see us buying 2 players from Brighton, and especially the price like it'll be. Agate is now being ruled out.
Yeah.
Is anyone in mind for you that you'd want at a CDM?
I would have to have a think now, because the links, there's so many links out there, aren't there? So you don't know which one's true, which one's not. So we can get all helped up about certain players coming in, and then suddenly just out of our grasp, maybe Rice would be a good buy.
Rice
West Ham
would be perfect. I think.
Yeah,
it's just
whether we could price him out. Now, again, there's more reports about ownership on their side. So would there be something in there for us? Arsenal are interested, so they're probably striking while the iron's hot to try to get players to come in. Who knows? There's just so much going on. It's not just us that are looking for players, unfortunately. I think other top clubs will be. And just look at that link with McAllister. I know he got shot down, but if City are looking to replace a really good player, Gundogan, with another top quality Premier League player, they're going to be looking at someone like McAllister or someone in that kind of region.
Kev, give me a perfect midfield 3 that you want this year. In fact, give me 3 others. Let's say McAllister's done. Give me 3 others that you'd like.
I'd like Timber as a defender, because I think it's more of a versatile kind of player that we need to that I think Jurgen wants. I think he wants that kind of player. You've got a player who can play right back, he can play centre back, he can also play defensive midfield as well. So he gives you through a few options, a bit like Fabinho did, and kind of helped us out in that 1920 season. It's a shame, and I'm devastated. I watched the Sporting Lisbon Benfica game last night, and I thought Ugarte was absolutely superb and well deserved the man of the match. And it's a shame that, according to reports, we have walked away from it. I agree with Harry. He'd be perfect for us. He is absolutely a monster, and that's the kind of person we've missed. We've missed that kind of beast in the middle of the park that just destroys everything that comes near him. It's a shame, really, you know what I mean, that we're not in for him. The perfect window for me would be McAllister, Ugarte and Gravenberch as well, from try and lure him away from Bayern Munich, and with Timber as well. I'd have also Timber defo as a right back, and then I'd also be then looking at other areas to venture in and try and get our certain players in. I know we're still getting heavily in with Mount. I don't know how possible that is, but a lot of people don't want him at the club. I think for 24 and a Champions League winner, and how versatile he is, I think he could do a job under Klopp. But I think that's me looking at it from, without Jay in the back of me neck saying, "What are you doing? Get him!" But no, for me, that's what I'd be doing.
Can I swap one player?
Go on.
Can I swap one player from that list? Gravenberch for Barella.
Yeah,
that would be perfect.
That'd be like winning the lottery, Van.
Yeah, I know, mate.
Floor, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be an absolute fantastic.
Then John Henry checks his bank account and thinks, "What the has happened here?" He cancels all his cards. He cancels his phone number. That's it. Klopp could not text him anymore, and he'll have to be drinking water from the tap in the near future with Mr. Henry. tap water it is for him. Drew, give me your three. Give me your three midfields that you'd like. Are you agree with the boys?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Charlie and Kev. I'd say for me, Barella that's like the kind of marquee signing that I could get very excited about. I've seen more highlight videos of Ugarte since the lads have been talking about him in the chat, and he looks like he could do a job. But for me, that might be like third on the list for me if we're going for three, and Alexis is already the one. I've watched Barella a lot, Inter, and he is a phenomenal player. But also tag on with what Kev said about Mason Mount. I actually wouldn't be too upset if we got him if the price was right. He's got 1 year left. The price is insane. 1 year left on his contract. He shouldn't be worth more than 30 mil, honestly. But I think Klopp could do a hell of a job with a player with him. But yeah, Barella for me, that like just one signing that I can like that we know can come in and absolutely light it up would be amazing.
HR Cost Online has just mentioned a couple of players there. Lavia, James Ward-Prowse, and maybe Tyler Adams. Regarding the relegation midfield, is anyone that stands out for you, Kev? That relegation. I think Madison's another one that could be thrown out there. If we get Madison for a good.
No, I don't want Madison. I don't want Tillemans. Out of those three, I'd take Ward-Prowse and I would take Lavia as well. But I just think that the price that they would be asking for Lavia would be ridiculous. It would be around about 40, 50 million. But this is the problem we've got ourselves into now. Everyone knows that we're out for the midfield, that we can't just rock up and go, oh, by the way, we're looking at X, Y, Z. By the way, that midfield, you got there any chance? We're not going to get him. Do you know what I mean? It's sad in a way. I'd take Ward-Prowse. I think Ward-Prowse would be quality on as a squad player. And Lavia as well to just, if you could get those two out for a decent price, then I'll take both of them. And it hits the homegrown quota as well with either one of them or with both. So I'll be happy with it. I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of that Lavia. I know a few of the lads haven't said, and I've got high hopes for him. So, I can't really talk about him, but I think Ward-Prowse would be quality for us as well to come off the bench and to play. I think also his free kick as well. He gives you something else that can come on as well and do something for us. I'll be happy with either one of them.
Three midfielders is what we all want. I think at least. Me perfectly is four midfielders and maybe like an upcoming one, but I know for a fact we ain't going to do that. I'm hoping to get at least two. To be honest, under FSG, I think two is an absolute maximum for FSG. So to get three for me is absolutely perfect. Let's go on to defender then, Charlie. Today we've got Simon Jones from the Mail said that we're interested in Mark Gahey from Palace. Is he one up there on your list? Or are you happy with just Timber?
Doesn't excite me. He's a good player, good pro, has done well to get where he is. Get an England call up, but he doesn't kind of excite me the way that Timber would. Timber's able to actually play midfield as well. I know he's done it in the past. Whether you could do that full time, who knows? But gives us that option to play that right back, centre back and that defensive midfielder. I know in the last live cast I was on, we were thinking about versatility amongst the players that we're trying to buy. So if we are kind of hedging our bets on small numbers, then we need to try to get players that can play a number of positions very well, not just they can do a job. I know we're replacing Milner. We're trying to replace Milner because he was consummate pro. He could play left back, right back, could play in that 6, 8 and 10 for Liverpool. He's done it before. Champions League assists record holder. So replacing Milner is going to be really, really vital, and Timber could be that player. I was unconvinced earlier on, but kind of Kev swung me around a few weeks ago, so been looking into him. Really, really good player. I know I was thinking about kind of the left-footed centre back who could play left back. That maybe be an option if Tsimikas were to move on, but that's where Mark Gay could come in because he is left-footed, I'm sure. So there is that potential, isn't there?
I think Timber is the one at the moment that is being reported to be most likely, if anyone. And for me, I think I agree with you what he says. The way he's versatile, it reminds me of Daley Blind where he can play that CDM and go back into left and centre back, and Holland's pretty good at getting those sort of versatile players. Very good, even the forwards that will play across the line, and like for example, Mohamed Kudus, he can play along the forward line and in midfield. So Holland's a very good shopping player. So we've seen that with Gakpo. Another one, versatile up front. He can play back in midfield. He can play on the left wing. So I trust shopping in Holland. I trust shopping in Portugal. I think I trust shopping in there than I do more than the Premier League at the moment. Well, just for recent years and how we've been doing well from the Portugal League and Dutch League. But to oversee all those transfers, we need a sporting director, and right now we do not have one. We have Julian Ward going on the bus out because he's had enough of FSG. But we've also got a part timer coming in. Okay, we've got a part timer coming in. Let's get his name right first. George Schmacht. Schmacht is a correct word for that now for Liverpool, because Liverpool get schmacked every week at the moment. So it is pretty much absolutely ideal person to come in. He's coming on a short-term basis, Kev, and the option is to extend him if it goes well.
Yeah.
Do you I can't imagine you know much about him, but do you have faith in this being the right appointment?
I think if they're pointing him on a short-term basis, then that means that there's deals to be done and deals that just need him just to fine-tune and to go and speak to the other clubs about. I think all the transfer part of it has been done, and it's now waiting for the CEO of the club to go and speak to the other CEO and discuss terms and finance, etc., and sort that out. So that's where we are, I think, which is why in the short term he's been given this contract as a bit of a trial period to see how well he does in those discussions, how well can he get those targets off the line, how quickly he can, and if it does go well and it, he can get us, and does a Michael Edwards with one of them. He used to say what's to happen, but if he comes across and gets them over the line like the club or Klopp expects him to, then that's when you give him the additional. I think it's kind of cunning by the club to do it. I think it's right at the moment. It still doesn't mean we're not looking for a CEO, but we need someone in the meantime if we want to get deals in place for June.
Does this go back to what Charlie said earlier in the bad planning?
Yeah, absolutely. But this has been on the cards for the last 2-3 seasons, though. Do you know what I mean? We've been talking about this all the time, and there's many mirrors from 2 to 3 years ago that we couldn't see now. Do you know what I mean? We're in a position where we're not. It's probably our weakest point at the minute, and we're trying to go in with as part of going in with strength. It's hard to do. I think we've got someone who can come in and do an appointment. I don't know enough of him. I don't know what he can do. Where if he can get these done, if he can get the players in. The only reason I'm thinking he comes in now on a short-term basis is because there's players there to be, there's transfers, maybe 1, maybe 2 transfers that he needs to get sorted for us, and it can't be done or can't be finished without the CEO of the.
Is this a possibility, mate? FSG maybe appointing a temporary sporting director because they're looking to sell.
I'll be honest. It's like Chinese whispers. Do you know what I mean? You just don't know what's happening behind the scenes. It's chaotic. From the outside looking in, it's chaotic. And has been chaotic all season, and it reflects in the way how inconsistent we've been this season. Nothing is aligned, and Jordan, when it was going well, everything was aligned from the top to the bottom, from the players to the manager to the CEO to FSG. Everything was all in line. Everything's all out of shape at the minute. Everything's chaotic. We've got analysts leaving at the end of the season. We've got a CEO who's decided after 6 months, I don't want this job anymore. There's we haven't had the doctor for a while, and that's showing in the amount of injuries that we're getting because someone got it on a temporary basis. Yeah, there's a lot of things wrong at the club at the minute that we need to address and get in touch. But it goes back to poor planning and poor management.
It reminds me of an episode of Hell's Kitchen where a restaurant's doing fine at the start. It looks good.
Who's Ramsey?
And then they start microwaving the food, and then Ramsey comes in, I hope this Schmatz guy is Ramsey basically coming in to save us at the moment, but I can't see it happening. And going on to next season, where our expectations lie, Drew, because we should be in a title race. Let's be honest here. I don't care if we sign two players in midfield, whether it's a bad window or not, we should be in title race, and that's where it reflects now in the transfer window. And if we are serious, do you agree?
I think we should be there. I don't know if we will be. I think it honestly depends on how Man City come into the season, because they've gone on an insane run in this last few months. Could win the Champions League, do the treble with the FA Cup, and they just look like a formidable giant to face next year. I think we should be challenging, though, because I've always said it doesn't matter what Man City do. If we beat every other team and see how we face off one-on-one versus Man City, we're in the shout. I don't think we should ever look at that as an excuse to performing in the season, because we don't have to worry about what they do. We just have to win our games, and I think that's doable. That's the goal. So I think we have, with the right buys in the summer, like if we address the midfield situation, looks like Klopp wants to address defense as well. I know our injuries there with Matip and Konate and Gomez not being reliable, we probably should get something addressed there. But if we can do all of that, we have the firepower, we have the system, we have the manager to challenge for the league, and top four should be absolutely minimum. I don't want to put too much pressure on after the season that we've had, but a title challenge would be a bonus for me. Top four is a must, and realistically, at least a Europa League final, maybe a League Cup final or an FA Cup final as well. But I don't think we're so far off the pace that we can't challenge on all fronts. But Man City look absolutely insane, and I can only imagine what they do in the offseason. So with that in mind, I still think we should be challenging on all fronts if the issues in midfield and a defender is brought in.
Charlie, what GTV said here, do you agree? Does it look like another top four battle, or is that it's not acceptable? Let's be honest. And what's acceptable to you next season?
Depending on how the summer goes, minimum's top four. Expectation would be challenging again. The way that we look at it is, if we're thinking about 90 points, that would give us a title challenge. Unfortunately, not a title win. Can we win 30 games next season, regardless of what happens with Man City and playing them? Can we actually go to the lower teams in the league and get points? Because that's where we've struggled this season. When it comes to the top six table, we're near the top, if not top, amongst them. But we've just struggled against those lower teams. They've, for whatever reason, they've just got a bit more hunger. We have got that desire. Referees are crap. But one lucky thing is that we won't be playing Saturday 12:30s anymore, because we'll be playing Thursday nights. So yeah, why not? We'll take every positive we can get. But
you know what? You've given me a positive there. I love Sunday games, and that's
I do.
That's the other positive I probably could take out of the season. That we're playing Sunday next year, and the Saturday 12 kickoffs. Yeah, the Saturday, they're the killers. Yeah. I don't think we've ever played well in a Saturday 12 kickoff ever. I hate them.
I just don't get. I've never understood it. I've never understood how we can beat Man City at home one weekend and then lose to Forest the weekend after,
and beat Man United 7-0 and then lose to Bournemouth.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. It's just bizarre. Whether there's a training issue because of the timings of the training that that Klopp and Pep put together, because it's more kind of geared for a later kickoff. So whether the guys just not used to waking up early, who knows? I know it's daft, but I'm just glad that we're not playing 12:30 next season.
Well, Drew has to wake up at 5 o'clock to watch that crap. So
yeah.
They have no excuses.
4:30.
They have no excuses. There you go. They have no excuses. If Drew can get up at 4:30 to watch us lose against Nottingham Forest on Bournemouth, then they can perform better than what they have been doing on the 12 kickoff. Kev, should we be winning a trophy next season? A trophy, for a club like Liverpool should be a must anyway when they get to the top. But after this season, does context come into it? And is this just a bad season, or should we just be back up there winning trophies anyway?
I think we should. We should always be looking at trying to be at the best of what we can. We've been, up until recently, we never took the domestic cup seriously on the club. I think what the benefit of having the Europa League is, it allows us to play those players who are on the fringes to have more game time that they would normally we request that they need to have, will automatically be given. It's not of a level until the Champions League teams come in, where you need to, the level isn't of the Champions League teams. It's just how we go about it. And have a mix of the fringe players and a few of the younger players as well, and give them an opportunity and a chance to a competition that they can actually use to our benefits, along with the Coca-Cola, with the Carabao Cup as well. Shouldn't go underestimated what a cup run means to the club. You only have to look at the trips I had on that this club has given me, especially in the league. I've been to more League Cup finals than any other, but they've been the best days. Don't get me wrong. I hate the competition. I hate it until the semi-final and then the final, and it's a day out at Wembley. And it's starting, and why it's easy. What we fail to forget with the League Cup is it's the easiest one to win. Less rounds, and if you get through them, you're automatically, and it's the first trophy of the season. If you win that sets you up for the rest of for the running. I think there's only one team in this country that can keep and go toe to toe with Man City, even after our Arsenal's done, and that's us. We've been proven that we can go toe-to-toe with them. We're the only team that can go toe-to-toe with them, regardless of what anyone says. You look at the 5 years, we've took it to the wire on so many occasions, and we've took it to them. We're probably a strong Liverpool provides a good title running. You don't get this 2 games before and the title's won. It goes down to the last game, and you've got to win for it. That's the kind of attitude we have and the belief that we have. I'm reveling next season. The only thing I'm unhappy about is 3 o'clock Saturdays, because I love the classic 3 o'clock on a Saturday rather than the Sundays. So I'm I'm a bit old school when it comes to that. But again, if it means we don't have to play those half 12 games, I'm more than happy. Do you know what I mean? Because we haven't won any of them this season.
Would it mean that we get actually more? Would we get more later Saturday games as well? Would that be?
Potentially, yes. So you'll probably be looking at our 5 games if we're on the telly. So
this be good like 8 o'clock. I think Saturdays have been 8 o'clock sometimes as well this season.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing that we need to look at. But to be honest, a club like Liverpool should be looking at those at any cup competition, and I do think that we go into the Europa League as favourites, and that may have, as I think what one of the comments has said, that we may underestimate it. I think in the early stages, I think we will underestimate it because it'll be a hindrance more than anything, and that's where you play your younger players and your fringe players to get them up to the levels that you need to and the requirements, so that when they come in, they're not match fit, they're ready to go in a way, and it helps us in a long season that we're expecting, that we're going to go at least 60 odd games, that we have the players there, and that's why this season it's influential that we get these signings correct.
With the amount of signings that are needed, Kev, is Europa League a perfect competition to really get them gelled into this team, and it's a chance to really get the team ready for a Champions League?
It can be. The level of competition isn't going to be that much until the Champions, as I've said, the Champions League teams come out of that.
When might drop down, you mean?
Well, yeah, possibly. Do you know what I mean? And the others that will come in as well. Arsenal, Newcastle as well. So thereul be many others that will be coming in. For me, it's a quick turnaround for players to hit where we need them to be. It gives them an additional, I'm not saying we go out and go, right, well, no, if we don't win, don't worry about it. But it gives us an opportunity to cement what's being done during pre-season, and it gives us a better understanding, a bit of cohesion that we probably missed, and that's That's where we need to be. But for me, that's, and also the benefit of the Europa League. It's another avenue into the Champions League, isn't it? So it gives us another opportunity of getting into that by winning that. So again, it's a bit, I treat it like the League Cup. It's a hindrance at the start, but as it gets closer to Dublin, you're edging forward and you're gearing up for a final, aren't you? So,
and we'll end it there, guys. Next year, we should be challenging for the title. We should be challenging for trophies. We should be winning trophies at least. This is Liverpool Football Club. We're not buying it. I know we act like buying it from the transfer window, but we're not really buying it. And this transfer window is absolutely key. If we get it wrong, this could affect the next 5-10 years. This is how big this is, and this is probably the biggest transfer window we've had under Jurgen Klopp, because we ain't got Jurgen Klopp for much longer. Unless he signs another deal, we ain't got Jurgen Klopp much longer. So we need to give the next manager a new set of players that can build again and continue to win titles, because this City team is no joke. It's no joke, and if we want to compete with them, we need to do it right, just the way they've been doing it right in transfer windows. And it starts with FSG. And the reason why I'm going to end the stream now, because it's getting darker and darker. I don't want to put the light on, but it's getting darker and darker. I'll be missing like John Henry's bank card sometime soon. So we'll end it there, guys. And thanks for coming on. And thanks to everyone that's watched. Make sure you like and subscribe. We will be up to date on transfer news, whatever you want. This summer, we're going to have some fun videos this summer as well, because I think we need a little bit of positivity this summer. Forget transfers sometimes. Forget talking about the league. Let's have a bit of nostalgia. Let's have a bit of talking about Gerrard betting Lampard and Skull, which is obvious. It's been me, Damon. Thank you to Charlie, Kev, and Drew. Thank you guys for coming on. And this has been LSC Transfer Room.
Thank you.